Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to my apartment in Düsseldorf and Happy New Year, of course. I decided to take a couple of days off in between Christmas and New Year's of not taking any videos because I just spent some time with my parents, saw some friends, and honestly, I had some really lazy me time where I wasn't really doing a lot. I was just dawdling along the day. I just watched some telly, some Netflix. I was sketching a little bit, and I was kind of fit. I went out with Alfie, obviously, like had some long walks. The weather is also really grim in Düsseldorf. It's kind of like the constant drizzle going on right now, and even today is kind of like a little iffy. I planned on actually doing something outside, an outdoor video. I still plan on doing it, but fingers crossed, I'm going to catch a day of no rain and a little nicer weather because there's something I still want to show you. But today's video, I want to do something that I actually started way back in October. So today's video will be about how I collect and store my seeds. And this is something that I do throughout the entire year. Whenever there's something that I want to propagate from seeds and I know it works well, by propagating it from seeds. I collect them, I comment there, and today I just want to show you how I store them because, of course, I also watched a couple of videos how different people are storing them, but I can just tell you from my own experience gardening in a quite humid climate in general. Like there's always a lot of moisture generally. Like it's a zone 7B, but it's next to a river, next to the Baltic Sea in Poland. So there's always moisture in the air. It's not a dry air, and the same in Düsseldorf. It's really moist here. So there is a way on how I figured it's best to store the seed. So if you're gardening in the same or similar climate, this might be quite interesting for you. So what I'm going to do now first is I show you everything that happened back in October. And then in a moment, I'm going to see you again here in my apartment when we store the seeds and I'll show you how they're looking like. Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my autumn garden. Today's video will be a little bit outside and a little bit inside. We had some really beautiful days in a row here. I think like 4 days of like clear blue skies, sunshine, no rain. And thinking about that we're in autumn, that makes it the perfect time to collect some seeds. And that is what I want to do today with you guys. I've seen that a lot of people collect seeds and how they do it. And I can just want to show you like how I do it and also my recommendation how to do it best basically. Because I've seen some people doing it in a way where I thought, ooh, that is not going to work out well because I did it like that and it really didn't work out well. So what I want to do now first is just like show you quickly what I'm going to collect, and then we go inside and I show you like how the seeds come out basically out of the seed pots and how I'm going to store them. So I hope you have fun with today's video. So first off, these are all the tools that I need actually for today's video. I've got like a little envelope that I just made of paper, and I got a pair of secateurs, and then in the back you can already see where I want to collect some seeds. So these are some Aquilegia, and Aquilegia are great and amazing beginner plants when you want to sow perennials from seeds because they're really easy. And if you look down, the stems and the seed heads are completely browned off, but the base of the plant still looks really beautiful, fresh and green. So Aquilegia thrive really well here. So how am I going to do it now with one hand? That is the thing that was already bugging me for a while. Maybe I just flip it like that. Okay, that is going to be an experiment now. Okay, whatever. I just snip it off here and hope they don't tip over completely, because if they do, then what happens? All the seeds are going to fall out instantly, and that's clearly not what I want. So I got my branch here, so try and get it out of the tangle. Don't pop it upside down. And then, ooh, here's my little envelope waiting for me, which is probably not an envelope in a second anymore, on my boxwoods. Okay, and there it goes. And already when you just pop it upside down, you hear the rattling sound of the first seeds actually falling out. So what I'm going to do now is just as I did, but a little more dedicated with 2 hands, just snip them off, put them in here, and then we walk inside and I show you how to continue. Isn't that just great fun to see how the garden looked back in October? It really takes me back to these days and really love it. Like just to see the garden in all of its like autumnal glory and how the colors are coming alive and the sun and everything is so beautiful. Because especially now everything is covered under a thin layer of snow in Gdansk. I'm really looking forward to go back and just really to enjoy the winter garden as well. But now watching that and also like working on the seeds today, it really just like triggers the anticipation and you really just want to go out there and do things again and go active and you can't wait for the first signs of like new fresh life to happen, like when the first snowdrops are coming out. But before that happens, I'm just going to store the seeds with you today. So this is actually the Aquilegia, and to be honest, I really left it exactly like this, how I harvested it, even in this like kind of like really rickety folded paper, didn't do anything to it, didn't close it off or anything, and this is extremely important because when I harvested them, there was probably still moisture in there, and I just want to make sure that whatever moisture could have been in there just have the ability just like to evaporate out so that they do not rot. And I'm really positive when I take them out and just check them with you in a second that I'm going to have a lot of really nice dried off Aquilegia seeds in here. So what else do I have? Yesterday I went with Alfie to the park in the morning for the morning walk because I know that there are some really glorious autumn anemones growing there, white ones and pink ones. And the white ones, for some weird reason, they had seed heads, but they were not looking right because I know autumn anemones have a quite particular way on how the seed heads should look like, which I'm going to show you in a second. And the pink ones, they were looking amazing. So I thought, okay, great. I'm just going to harvest only the pink ones and try and propagate them, something I've never really done before, but I know it works and they should stay true to color at least. Not sure if they stay true to right, but at least to color. So what I did is like I just had a little brown paper bag with me yesterday, actually 2 or 3 of them, just to be sure if I find anything else. So I harvested a couple of the autumn anemones and I'm going to start sowing them very, very soon. I store them now. I have quite a lot of them, but because I really want to make sure that they have a quite good kickstart into the season, I'm going to start sowing them indoors, and maybe they will even flower this year. I don't really think so, but I just want to make sure that they have quite a good long growing year to establish and develop a lot of roots and all of that, so that I will have really robust, sturdy plants going into winter. Next thing I collected are asters, and I have no idea about varieties, neither about the anemones, not about the asters, because in the park there are no labels or anything, but these asters are really tall. They are pretty much my height, and if I remember right, they flower purple-ish. I'm not 100% sure, but I just remember that each year I see them there, and each year I think, wow, they are so vigorous and tall and impressive. I've never grown asters from seed, so I really don't know what to expect, but I tried. I give it a go. I'm going to show in a second how these seed heads are looking like, and I'm really intrigued on how this is going to look. And the nice thing is, like, I try to make sure that I have 3 different kind of seed pots here, so we really get to see the difference on how different every single flower produces its seed heads. You have those typical ones that probably most of you have seen, like poppies or even snapdragons. They have these kind of like rattle kind of shells where you really just rattle inside. You hear the seed pods really nice. And then you have fluffy ones like the anemones that I'm going to show you. So it's always a very intriguing process. One thing you need to consider, not really sure if I mentioned it in the previous sequence when I was harvesting the seeds, is that a lot of the varieties will not stay true to the mother plant. For example, phlox. I always, well, this year I didn't, but in the past years I always collected seeds from Phlox David because normally they produce quite vigorous offspring. Most of them have nothing to do with David. There are a lot of white ones in the mix, but some of them are like white with a little pink, tint of pink or blue. Some of them are just really pale pink, absolutely beautiful. So I just do it for my own fun and just like for producing cut flowers eventually, and that's just a nice thing to do. Same with Aquilegia. Like the ones that I harvested, they are kind of my favorite one in the garden, and they were a cross-pollinating product actually between a blue and a white one. And I know that the offspring that I'm going to get out of these, if I'm lucky, maybe 3, 4 of those plants will be true to the mother plant. But you know what? If that is the case, I'm happy with that, and for the rest, I'm also happy with that. I think this is also the fun of sometimes like experimenting and see what comes out of those things. At least I know that they will be in a certain color range. Aster is a complete mystery to me, no idea, never sown it, so let's see what happens there. When it comes to the storing, you could already see that I was preparing some little bags here. So I did some illustrating, and I always try and make sure that when I store them that they look nice in a way. Because whenever I get them out, it just takes me back to this happy place, and I see a picture and I'm kind of just like, oh, just happy and look forward to whatever comes out of it actually, especially when I store them maybe for a little longer time. So you can already tell how I store my seeds. I use paper bags. And when you watch different videos, there's one common thing that everybody's going to tell you, and I'm going to say it probably the second billion time that you're going to hear it, is never store your seeds in a plastic bag or in a sealed plastic container. Nothing sealed off in general, because all the moisture that is still inside the seeds does not have the ability to kind of like get out and evaporate. And then when it's in a sealed plastic bag or container, seeds will start to rot, and this is not good because then they're not fertile anymore. A couple of years ago, there was a trend going on, maybe it still is, of just like having these tiny jam jars and then just put your seeds in there, put some ribbon on there, seal it with the lid basically, and that's exactly what I did. Since I told you this is a quite moist area here in Düsseldorf and Gdansk, it's not a good idea to even put it in a jam glass because the moisture will still stay in there. And I remember a couple of years ago when I was ready to sow my seeds, I opened the jar and they actually had mold. So they were just useless, which was really a pity back then, because I think that was even the very, very first time I ever collected seeds, if I'm not wrong. So just as a hint of advice, a paper bag is always the best thing you could use because, first of all, it's dry in here, it's dark in here. Any moisture has the ability just like to get through the paper, or even the paper will soak up the moisture, and then it just dries off. And when your seeds are in here, you just try and find a nice, dark, location for them. So I just always put them in a drawer in my study basically. I would not suggest putting them in your garden shed, your garage or anything, because temperatures can go like really up and down, and like in my study I know it's kind of like the same temperature throughout the entire year pretty much, and this is quite good for storing seeds. So all I'm going to do here, you're going to see it in a second anyways, but I'm just going to show you again how it works. So I just have my little paper bag. So what I'm going to do in a second to show you how I'm going to put my seeds just in here, and then I just folded it over, have a little hole in here, come in with my ribbon, and then I just close it off with a ribbon, and it will be ready to be stored. But what I'm going to do now first is I will flip the phone and show you how each of the seed pods individually are looking and how I store them. Okay, so I always put my seeds first on a clear white paper, because when all the seeds are on here, what I can do is you can just like fold it like this, come in with your paper bag, and then you can just tip it all in here and they fall all into your paper bag. So this is kind of like how I do it. And when you put all your seeds on a clear white paper, you even get to see what you're actually doing. So first thing, I'm going to look at the Aquilegia and how they are looking. And you can tell a lot of the seeds actually already fell out here. So they have a quite good, decent size in general, which is always nice with Aquilegia. Because sometimes you have seeds that are so tiny that you can hardly see them. So all the seeds actually set. I hope you can see it. I try to make sure this is how the seed heads are actually looking like. Hope the focus is right. So they're kind of like, almost look like a vase, to be honest. And then in each of these segments, this is where the seeds were actually sitting in. Because I stored them for quite a long time, I don't think there's anything left in here, to be honest. I think most of them fell out already. But this is kind of like, it rolls, and then inside here, this is where each individual seed actually sits. So what I would do now, basically, is normally I would just tip it over, and then see some of the seeds are still falling out. Just like that. And then you can still kind of like look inside, see if there's still anything hiding in there. Just break it apart, couple still in there. And this is how I do it with the Aquilegia basically. So just really go through each and every single seed head now. Try and make sure that I get all of them out, and then I'll just put them into my little bag here. And this is kind of like how the color of the mother plant was looking already. But I'm going to put a photo of this by the end of the video, so you really get to see how it looked in my garden. So this is everything that I have now. This is basically the rest here. This can all go into the, well, normally onto the compost heap, but now here into the trash bin actually. So this is what I have, quite a good amount of seed, because most of them, they will germinate. Aquilegia is really easy to sow. It's a great beginner plant for you as well. If you've never sown anything, Aquilegia is a beautiful one, because I can tell you most of them, they will germinate and they will really form nice, decent plants. So I'm not even sure if I will sow all of them here. So all I'm going to do now is I come in with my paper bag, fold it like this, and then in it goes. See, nothing on here anymore, and now I can just close it off, put my little ribbon through here, and that's it, ready for storing. First one ready, and honestly, making the packaging took probably 200 times longer than collecting them and storing them, to be honest. Like, I was maybe out in the garden for a minute, and now getting the seeds out was maybe another minute, because they were so dried off, like most of the seeds that fell out of the seed heads anyway. But it's beautiful. I've got a good amount. So what I'm going to do now is I want to show you how the autumn anemones are looking like, because they are really different to what you just saw here on the Aquilegia. So I've got my bag with the autumn anemones, and I'm just going to tip it out here so you see how they are looking like. And if you've ever seen cotton, they remind me a lot of cotton. They really have this fluffy texture, and I try to find one that is still, okay, this is quite good actually. So is there one on a stem? Oh, this one is really good. So this is how they actually look on a stem. They kind of have this sphere-like shape in a way. Don't want to destroy it now. So they really look like this little sphere, and on the outside you see all of these dots here, and this is what the seed actually is. And then in the center, if I break it open, there you have all this lofty, fluffy texture. So it kind of works a little bit in nature like a dandelion would. So it would kind of like break open, and you could tell at the tips they kind of start falling apart, so the wind would basically come in and just blow them far away and apart, and wherever they land, they will start to germinate. So each and every single of these tiny dark dots that you see here is a seed. So just one of them could potentially create a lot of plants. I've got way too many. And here, completely other to the Aquilegia, I'll leave them exactly as they are, because only when it comes to the sowing, this is when I get in there. And even then, I'm not going to sow them individually, but I'll show you in another video how I will sow them. So all I will do with these actually is, here I will just get rid of the stems, because I clearly do not need those anymore at all. This was just really good for showing you how they actually look on their dried off stems. And I'm telling you, they were full of seed heads. It was really beautiful sight. Even like for winter structure, I think autumn anemones are really intriguing if you just see them. So what I do now, because they kind of really feel like cotton or like a textile fabric, just come in here, put them all inside, close it off, and then that was it with the autumn anemone. So that was really one of the easiest ones to store, I think. So the next one are the asters. So as I said, I think the asters are flowering purple. So in my mind, they will look somewhat like this, but let's see. First of all, I want to show you how the seeds are actually looking like. So this is how they come off. I needed to squeeze them in here a little bit, because they really come at this kind of long stem actually. They were, trying to tease it apart a little bit now again. Okay, you see it's really dried off, which is really nice, of course, for collecting the seeds. So this is kind of like how they were looking like. Here was a long stem, and then it kind of just like how the aster actually flowers. And then you could even see all the individual little flower heads still here. So this is where every single flower is set, and what you can do is, you see, it's almost like a little painting brush here. Really soft, fluffy, very delicate. But what you can do now is just come in here with your fingers, and then you just pull it out, and there you see all of the seeds are actually on a little parachute again. So the same technique, again, like a dandelion, or very similar to the, I hope you can see it well now on my finger here, or on my hands. This is how they look like. So you got this seed here. Some of them are bigger and some are smaller. So I think the bigger ones are the best ones for sowing, obviously. But then they have this really delicate, fine parachute here. So when the wind comes in, it's just going to carry it. Whoa, it's really delicate now. It's really going to come in and just carry it away, and it just blows off somewhere. So how this works actually now is I will just get in here and just start pulling all of them out bit by bit. And this is really quick again because it's dried off so beautifully already. And then this here is for the trash bin basically, so I don't need that anymore. And then this is the rest what I'm going to put in my bag. I'll leave the little parachutes on. I'm just going to break them apart a little bit now. So when I start sewing them, I could just like see which ones are big and nice and good looking and which ones are small and I'm not gonna sew. And then this is going to be a total experiment. I have no idea what to expect. I even need to research if asters need a cold spell in order to germinate, because if this is the case, then I need to get on really fast with them and just put it out on the balcony. Because then they still get a good amount of cold in order to trigger the germination process, but I need to research. I think asters, it's really depending on the variety. So I think what I might do is put some on the inside and some on the outside and see how different they perform. But this is all going to happen in a different video. Aren't these looking nice as a little trio together with the illustration on the brown paper bag, the handwritten name on there, the ribbon? So happy with that. And yes, I know, I could have done a way quicker and easier job by just taking a brown paper bag, write the name on there and just pop a seeds in there. But you know what? This is going to make me happy. And I really just love to glorify the simple things in life, because when I go back in there and start sewing my seeds, I'll take my paper bags and I'm just going to love what I see on them. And I can reuse them, obviously, because the names are so vague, because I don't know what varieties I'm actually sowing here. So I could easily just use it next year again. So if the asters are off for a flying start, chances are next year I'm going to collect asters again somewhere, and then I can just use this lovely bag next year again. You guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you had fun with it. And yes, I know that this is probably video 3000 about how to collect and store seeds. But I tried to collect some of those that I haven't seen anybody else collecting so far. So you just get to see how different seeds and seed heads can actually look like and how they vary in size as well. I only had quite small ones, to be honest. They're also huge seeds, like lupins, for example. They produce really lovely big seed heads, any kind of beans as well. So if you have, for example, sweet peas, they really have lovely big seeds, very easy to sow. And as I already mentioned in my future video, I will do a little sowing, like some indoor sowing already. I'm still waiting for a couple of seeds that should be in the mail very soon. Some are vegetables, some are beautiful flowers I'm not going to sow yet, and I'm also going to start with some of these because perennials, I just like to start them off a little earlier in the year. But what I want to do as well is that one of you can win one of these seed packs here. So all you need to do is just go into my Instagram, which is called Baltic Gardening as well. Same logo, same everything. Just DM me and tell me what you want to have, and the 7th person who's going to write me is going to receive one of these. So fingers crossed that at least 7 people will make it. I have no idea. 7 is my lucky number because I'm born in the month of July. So maybe you get it, and wherever you live, I will send it. If you live in Kansas City or if you live on Tahiti, I will send it even to Tahiti. Chances are that if you live in Kansas City, they will thrive. If you live in Tahiti, you have a nice packaging, but I don't think that they will thrive in your climate, because these all thrive really well in a zone 7B, but anything that is really tropical, that might be a little complicated, I'm afraid. But anyways, I hope you have fun with today's video, and I'm really, really happy to welcome you in my future video very soon again. Up until then, have a wonderful day, you guys. Bye.